Well, after the humiliation of my last CO2 video, I think I'm going to go back to cold CO2. I have a theory that the more liquid CO2 I put in here, the higher the percent yield of dry ice will be, because I figure that I'm losing some of the initial heat in just the vaporization of the liquid, and that if I continue to push more liquid out, that I will get more CO2 proportionally than if I have a small amount. So I want to test that by filling this with various amounts of CO2. This has a 700 ml capacity. I also have this one which has a 1400 ml capacity, so I can go up, but that's a lot of CO2. So I've been stocking up on supplies. I actually even have a little more of this stuff coming because I figure I'm going to need it to make that much CO2. My real problem, of course, is the pumping. I can't do it. I'm old and I'm fat and it hurts. So because of that, I went to my friends on eBay and came back with the famous Yongheng compressor. Now the input to this is right here. It's a metric fitting, and I've already gone for a barb fitting to replace that. Until it gets here, I'm going to try just putting my blue tubing right over the top of that sintered filter. It's a very exciting moment, I think, for all of us. It's blowing, so let's hook it up to the cylinder and see what we can do. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, less than a minute. Run number 2. Cooling water on. Now that's good. That was about, it was over 50 grams in one go. So this is obviously a way more efficient way for me to be doing this. I'm going to go ahead and get a whole bunch of gas in this thing. So this is 500 grams of cold CO2. That pump was great because it's more CO2 than I've ever produced before. And it took me, the equivalent of less than an hour to do that. I didn't do it all at once. But it's much, much, much faster than the old pump. So, well done. So, what I'm going to do is go ahead and release this and see what I get. 1, 2, 3. Well, I can tell you right now, it was cold. Well, not as much as I was hoping. It's 95.3 grams, so let's take away the 15, and that means 80 grams, so 80 of 500 is what, about a sixth? About 16.5%. So there's some iced tea for you, Halloween style. I'm going to do several different blows here of different weights of CO2 in the cylinder and see if I get a difference in yield. My thought being that the more CO2 I put in the cylinder, the greater the percentage yield will be, because I don't lose as much in heating the device. I guess we'll see if that's true or not. So let's do 3 or 4 more runs here. This is going to be run number 2. This is with 400 grams of CO2 in the same cylinder. I think I'll call it 80 again, but I got another 80 out of 400, and I got 80 out of 500. That's funny. This is my 300 gram CO2 run. That's 80 grams minus 16 grams for the bag is 64 grams of dry ice out of 300 grams of CO2. So it's time for my 200 gram shot. You may recall that 200 grams is the amount that I shot in my very first production when I made CO2 while I was on vacation. It's also the amount that I shot in that disappointing one that I did last episode. So let's go ahead and give this one a go. I'm expecting less, obviously. So that's 50 grams minus the 16 of the bag, which is 34 grams. So yeah, it's less. It's funny though, it's not a linear relationship. I'll have to graph this out and see. We've gone down as low as we're going to go. We're going to go up next. So I've suffered something of a setback. I wanted to do 750 and 1,000 gram shots for my yield curve. This thing has a volume of 24 ounces, which is 709 mLs, and 1,000 grams should have been about 500 mLs of liquid CO2. So I'm pumping away, and I was getting kind of pressury, and I knew it was pretty high. In fact, it was high enough that during my last run, I actually left the room while I was filling it up because, you know, this stuff's not really designed for extremely high pressures. And the thing was pretty hot, so I was pretty sure that I was probably going supercritical at times. Anyway, what happened is that my burst disc let go. This was the burst disc right here. 3,000 psi, it let go. That's higher than the gauge pressure that I was seeing on my pump, but still, 3,000 psi, that's pretty high. And when it went off, I just about lost my fudge. So it was an exciting moment for everyone. I have ordered new burst discs. I'm unable to use this thing until I get new burst discs, and that's a shame because I really want to do that, and there was really close to a kilogram of liquid CO2 in that thing. So I'm going to have to use this one. This has a 1.4 liter capacity. So I want to do my last two shots in my yield curve. So this one has 750 grams of CO2 in it, but I cooled this thing down in the freezer to minus 16, and that should really give it a vapor pressure of about 325. It looks like it's more like 400. It may have warmed up a little bit, but I wanted you to see that, remembering the phase diagram, that we should have a significantly lower pressure. When this thing was being filled, it heated up and it went up to almost 1,600 psi. Not violent, just really long in duration. 116.6 minus the 16.5 or so of the bag means that I got 100 grams out of a 750 gram shot, which seems disappointing. Interestingly, not all the pressure's out. I think I must have made some ice inside the horn. This is shot number 2, same bottle. I just got another 30 grams. So here's the big kahuna. This is my 1 kilogram shot. Again, it's coming in about 390 psi out of the freezer. We're going to take it slow, not try to release it all at once. Give it time, and when it stops, we're going to let it cool off slightly and then give it another shot, because I think I'm forming dry ice inside the cylinder, which is artificially depressing my yields. So we've done 2 shots now on this 1 kilogram bottle, and we're going to do another one. So far we've gotten 58 grams out of it before it clogged up. I've concluded that my prior valve stem in this tank was icing up while I was trying to release the CO2. These, the 750 and the 1000 were the only two releases I tried with this tank. And it's got, I don't know if you can see it, it's got that screen in the bottom there, and I think that it was icing up in that screen. So I've added this valve to the bottle. So this is my repeat new valve. It was supposed to be a 750 gram shot. It's actually an 800 gram shot. I got a little overzealous. Let's fire it off. It's goobed up with stuff. I'm starting to wonder if maybe this is not the valve, but it's an artifact of the technique, which means that I'm not going to be able to really do a true yield curve. I just added another 45 grams, so I'm up to 133 plus 45 is 178 grams. So what have we learned from this evolution? Well, the first thing we've learned is that these things are much tougher than I thought they would be, because this disc here blew out at 3000 psi, and I was getting really pretty nervous about the pressure. I really didn't think that this stuff was going to hold it together. I thought this was the piece that was going to let go, and it didn't. So thank you for not letting go and blowing me into smithereens. Here's a ruptured burst disc, by the way, and here's a non-ruptured burst disc. So the second thing I learned was that my CO2 production system is pretty darn inefficient. That those last two shots of 1,750 grams, I should have been able to get that out of a gallon of muriatic acid, and it took me almost 3.5. So I'm either losing it on the production and collection side, or I'm losing it in the compression side. And I also know that I'm losing a lot of it in the dry ice production side, because unbeknownst to me, things were icing up. You know, when I did that hot shot, it's supposed to produce a lot of ice, and it's possible that the reason that hot shot failed is that it iced up immediately. So other than that, I'm going to call this done with my chunks of dry ice. Got a couple of other dry ice things that I want to try, just because I kind of do. So I'll probably squeeze one more video out of this particular cryogenic subject. Other than that, please feel free to like and subscribe if you want. You know what, if you don't want, that's fine too. You don't have to. Please feel free to tell your friends, see if they want to watch my videos. If they don't want, that's okay, because I'm just here doing my thing. Other than that, thanks very much for watching, and have a great day. Oh, dry ice snowball.